The brain often needs repetition. And especially when you have someone who's neurodivergent, right? Often one of the symptoms that they're dealing with is a barrier to sensory information, right? Reaching the brain and the ability to take in information, there can be a barrier there. And so when you teach something or do something with repetition, that information is much more likely to reach the brain.
Welcome back to Mother's Guide Through Autism. I am Bridget Shipman, and I'm your host. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Spencer Doman. He is the director of the Doman International, an organization that empowers parents of special needs children to help their children accomplish the impossible. He is the grandson of the world-famous Glenn Doman, who pioneered the field of child brain development. And Spencer had authored the books, The Doman Method, From Special Needs to Wellness, and Answering Autism. Spencer has taught parents of both special needs children from over 80 countries. He coaches parents on how to help their children reach their fullest potential and express their innate intelligence. Over 60 years, the Doman Method has helped thousands of special needs children learn to walk, talk, and succeed in school and life. Enjoy this episode. Hi, welcome back to Mother's Guide Through Autism podcast. I have a wonderful guest today, and I know you heard in the introduction all about Spencer Doman, and he is a great person to get a lot of information from. We were just visiting before we got on, and I think you all are going to really enjoy this episode. So welcome, Spencer.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so we did a little bit of a chit chat before we started, and I am just really excited for you to talk about your history, what you do. So can we start with how you got here?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically impossible to tell my story or the story of Doman International, which is the organization that I direct, without starting with my grandfather, Glenn Doman. So my grandfather, Glenn, was a physical therapist, and he was really an outside the box thinker. And in the 1950s, he started to realize that a lot of the things that he had learned in school were not really helping his patients, specifically his patients with developmental delays or neurodevelopmental conditions. And so that really started him on a journey of seeking out answers, and specifically holistic solutions to the problems that children with special needs face. And so over decades, he created a series of different treatments and activities, which are now called the Doman Method. So as you said, my name is Spencer Doman, but the method is actually named after him. What we do at Doman International is we teach families of children with special needs holistic treatments and activities that they can do that enhance the brain development of their children. Because the brain is the command center of the body, right? It controls everything we do, from talking to learning to moving our bodies. And fortunately, the human brain can develop faster due to something called neuroplasticity, which is something we'll probably get into. And so that's what my grandfather really dedicated his life to. And that's what we still do at Doman International today.
Yeah, so we were, when we started chatting before I hit the record button, it was interesting to me because I told you, I said, I've been around a while. My son's 31, so I'm referred to as a pioneer, I guess, of the autism community, just simply because I've been around long enough to see what little information there was, at least. Of course, internet was just coming out and all that, and how much there is now. So when I coach moms, it is the opposite of my situation. I couldn't find things, right? So I hadn't really heard about your grandfather, and then he was so famous. I'm like, how did I miss that? But really, you're bringing all that beautiful work back, that your grandfather really began, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. When my grandfather started this work in the 1950s, it was a very different landscape for parents. From if you took maybe an average couple who had a child with autism, generally at that point, what they would be told by, their doctor and other professionals is institutionalize your child. Kind of, there's no hope. And when my grandfather came onto the scene in the 50s and 60s, and he was saying that we can actually give parents knowledge and tools to help their own children, that was completely groundbreaking for the time.
Mhm.
And by the way, even at that point, even saying that children with special needs could be helped was groundbreaking, and he was attacked a lot for that. But now we live in a very different age. We live in an age where instead of there being no information for parents, there's actually too much information, right?
Mhm.
Every week, even for families who come to Doman International, they are asking me. I'll be asked basically every week, "Oh, Spencer, have you heard about this new treatment?" And then it's like, okay, me or someone else in the organization has to learn about it. And sometimes those are things that might be helpful, and we might incorporate them into our own methodology. But a lot of the time, it's not. Honestly, a lot of the time, those things are dead ends. And so for parents in the internet age, it really is overwhelming. They just don't know, where do I go for answers? Who can I trust? And that makes life very difficult for them.
It does. And so, what I'm trying to accomplish, Joseph and I both, with this podcast, is knowledge, hope, and inspiration, right? So we're offering knowledge, and then I also have, some of the inspirational pieces to these interviews. And so when I have a mom that comes to me and she's like, okay, we're doing OT, we're doing PT, we're doing the classic ones that they send you off to do. Their child's doing an ABA, whatever their doctor has suggested that they begin this journey with. Tell us what the philosophy is. Tell us your philosophy and your methods, and what do you do? Like, parents listening to this are, we're always looking for resources and answers, right? So tell me about the Doman philosophy and method.
Well, even your question reminded me of something that kind of sparked my grandfather's line of inquiry. So he actually, early on as a physical therapist, he was doing a session with a family, and a member of the family had had a stroke. And so here he was as a physical therapist, and he was trying to get the person to use their arms better. So he was moving the person's arm back and forth, trying to improve the range of movement. And there was actually, like a teenage girl in the room, one of the family members. And she said to my grandfather, she asked him, she said, I thought my grandpop had a stroke in his brain. And my grandpop said, yeah, of course. And she said, so if he has a problem in his brain, why are you moving his arm back and forth? And my grandfather realized he had no answer for that. And that's one of those kind of pivotal moments for him that made him realize, okay, the root cause issue, whether we're talking about children with autism or other neurodevelopmental conditions, is in the brain, right? Their brain has not developed normally.
Mhm.
And as I said, the brain controls everything. And so there is this phenomenon which I mentioned called neuroplasticity. And the human brain can change when we do specific kinds of activities, when we receive stimulation, when we are challenged in certain ways, right? Uh, our brain is an organ that can change. And so what we do with the Doman method is basically we're on a mission of searching for those specific activities that can drive brain development the fastest, right? So, how can we help a child who can't talk learn how to talk? How can we help a child who can't read learn how to read? And so the Doman method is not one activity. There are basically 6 different components to our program, which include nutrition and supplementation. So we look a lot at diet and supplements because we found that that plays a big role in brain development. Outside of the brain, there are actually 500 million neurons, which are brain cells, in the human digestive tract. So the brain and the gut are constantly communicating with one another. So nutrition and supplementation is just one component of our program, but we also focus on cognitive and speech development, mobility development. We have a very special part of our program, which is an oxygenation program, which is focused on increasing oxygenation to the brain because oxygen is the food of the brain. And so when we increase oxygenation to the brain functions better. So we're basically taking puzzle pieces and putting them together and then designing for a specific child, what is the best customized program to help this child reach their goals, whatever they might be.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that and I thought, well, when I started out in education, it was teach to the whole child because originally I started with the lower grades and then of course went up, but that sounds to me like you're looking at the whole person, looking
Yes.
at every piece of what makes them operate, right? So to speak. So if your child has ADHD, anybody who's neurodivergent would fall under that method. So it doesn't look exactly the same for every person. Am I understanding correctly?
That's right. That's right. It depends specifically on what are the specific symptoms that individual is dealing with.
Okay. So that's great because you don't want to I feel like a lot of the stories that I'm currently hearing from the people that I help, that I coach is that they get a standard, here you go, your whatever. I deal mostly with autism, but your child is on the autistic spectrum. So you're going to do this, and this. When in fact, that, they're like you're saying, there's a root cause. Everybody's brain functions differently. Especially when you're neurodivergent, right? Which is a new term. Back in the day, we didn't have that term,
Yes.
but
Right.
it is the term now to encompass um, neurodivergent brains, people who have issues with functioning in our world, our
Yes.
neurotypical world, right?
Yes.
I watched, there were so many testimonials and parents that mentioned that, and this is what I'm getting to, right? That they tried other things like speech therapy, ABA, that really didn't help. And I've heard that more than once, but that your method, the Doman method, did. What do you think sets your methods apart from other approaches?
So I think there are a few things, but I think that the holistic approach is essential
Mhm.
because, like you mentioned, we're looking at the whole child. And like I said, there are these 6 different components to our program where we're focusing on, nutrition and sensory development and cognitive development and mobility. And since every child is different, they don't all respond to the same treatment in the same way. And
Mhm.
so by trying to tackle their challenges from different angles, right? Trying out different kinds of treatments, we will find, what works best for this child.
Mhm.
And so I think that the holistic aspect is important. But the other thing that can't be denied is the importance of coaching the parents. Because what typically happens is, parents will bring their children to therapists. The therapist will do therapies in office, and the parent brings them home. And maybe, average kid will get 1 or 2 sessions a week for 30 minutes, something like that. And the truth is, even if a therapist is the best therapist in the world, uh, accomplishing a lot in 30 to 60 minutes a week is going to be difficult, right? When we're talking about often very severe symptoms that people, neurodivergent people are dealing with. And so by coaching the parents, we get really great results because no one loves a child more than the parents love them, right? No one is more dedicated to a child's wellness than parents. And so when we basically partner with parents and say, try these things, parents will kind of go to the moon and back, to do
Mhm.
whatever they can for their kids. And that really helps drive the results.
Yeah, yeah. I used to well, I still call them, I guess, teaching moments. Just with anything that we were working on with Joseph, it was like, okay, how can we apply whatever we're doing in a playful way, right? So I get what you're saying, that there's so many moments that you have with your child that it can be fun, doesn't have to be tedious, but I think it's important for the parents to be a part of it. It's not like, you're just dropping your child off for PT twice a week and you're going to expect, a miracle to happen, right?
Yeah.
It is a holistic point of view. And I love that you include the parents because they're the ones, I think the parents are most effective with their kids. I know you have success stories, and I told you, we do knowledge, hope, and inspiration on Mother's Guide. So, can you share some success
Success
stories?
stories. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ultimate goal of our program is something called graduation to life, right? Where our team, our clinical team, gets to the point with a person where we say, we actually feel that this child or this adult would be benefited more from going out into life, whether that's going to school or going to work, rather than continuing on the program. That's the goal, graduation, and that's something that my grandfather started years ago. And so, this year, already this year, we've had 2 children that are being graduated from the program who received a diagnosis of autism. So to just to tell you their quick stories, we have families all around the world, right? Our organization is called Doman International. And so we have families actually from 80 different countries. So one child who's just been chosen for graduation, his name is Pushkal. He's a 8-year-old boy in India. And, his parents have been doing our program for about 18 months. When he started our program, he had very limited speech and it was very repetitive, kind of repeating the same word or phrase over and over again. Uh, a lot of difficulty with focus and concentration. He was the kind of child that, when he first came for his first visit, he couldn't sit. While parents and our team were talking, he had to kind of roam around the room
Yeah.
just to be able to kind of keep himself calm. Okay, and and on top of that, Pushkal, he couldn't read at that point. He couldn't do math, so he didn't really have a basis for academic success in school. And so yeah, so his parents have been doing our program for 18 months. And so Pushkal now is, he reads books independently at his age level. He does math. So academically, he's doing great in school. His teacher's reporting to parents that he's one of the top kids in the class. But from a focus and concentration standpoint, he no longer has that constant hyperactivity. He's able to sit comfortably and happily.
Mhm.
And when I saw him last, at our clinic, he was completely engaging with me in full conversation. He's able to not just speak hold real conversations, but also he can tell stories, like he can explain something from start to finish. He can tell me about what he experienced during the day. And so parents agree that he's ready now to, graduate from our program and, join his peers in school and life. And our team, in his last evaluation agreed. So that's that, one of the philosophical aspects of that my grandfather brought to our program is that everything we do in the Doman method should be self-eliminating, which means that if it's done enough, it should eliminate the need for that thing, right? Meaning, if our program is done long enough for a child, it shouldn't need to be done anymore, right? There shouldn't be a lifetime program. And so the whole goal of every treatment that we give is, how can we get a child to the next place in their development so that this treatment is no longer needed, right? It's not a lifelong thing.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I love that story because um I was just speaking to a mom the other day, and her child was diagnosed level 3
Yeah.
and basically has very little hope. But my child's not going to be able to ever live on their own. My child, I said, they told me the same thing. And Joseph lives 2.5 hours away from me. He's independent. Um, so I just want our listeners to know that yes, it's daunting and it's grim and it takes work, but I believe that there is hope for every person. And that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, yeah, there is. And I think that professionals do a real disservice to parents and children alike when they say things like that. And for a few reasons. First of all, it's absolutely impossible to predict how a child is going to develop.
Exactly.
And I mean, and I say that for myself because I get asked this question by parents every week. Spencer, based on your knowledge with your treatment program, how, in 6 months, where's my child going to be? And I say, I can't answer that. Like, all we can do is provide you with the best, you know, customized program for your child, but we can't ensure, we can't tell the future, basically.
Right.
And, when a professional says that to a parent, honestly, it's a red flag because the parent should say, how can this person tell the future? Um, the second thing is, it often uh, creates a very bad environment, a negative environment for a child, where the people who care about the child the most are now placing an artificial ceiling on that child's development. It's kind of like, imagine for a second if we're in a room together and someone's about to come in and I say, Bridget, you've never met this person before, but I want to let you know, like, this person is not very they're not bright, they can't learn. So, I just want to let you know before they come in. If we bring that person in, you're going to interact with that person in a completely different way, right,
Right.
than you would have otherwise. And so the problem is, when parents are told that about their child, they're much less likely to give the child stimulation that they might have otherwise given them. Because the doctor told me he's never going to be able to learn or,
Mhm.
read or talk. So what's the point? When
Right.
actually that child might be completely capable of doing those things if they're just stimulated.
Right.
And so it's not right. I would argue it's even unethical, but
Yeah.
yeah, it hurts a lot of kids when professionals do that.
It does. And it hurts the parents. It's really traumatic to hear somebody say, your child that is in my case 3 years old has no future.
Yeah.
Sorry, but not going to be able to go to school. I mean, I was just like, hey, time out. I'm already devastated. Can you just give me a second to breathe here, right? And the whole time after I got, we got over the shock and all that, it was just like, I disagree. Yeah, I don't agree with you. So here we go. I don't know how we're going to get there, but
Yeah.
we're going to get there. And I think whatever that looks like, and I understand that can't that's not true for every single case, but certainly there is hope. Either way, there's some type of hope and help out there. And this is a hard question, I think, because you probably have a lot, so give everything you want to give. But what is your best advice for parents raising a child on the autistic spectrum or really any neurodivergent person?
Yeah, that it's a very good question, and it's a big one.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe to change your question a little bit, if
Sure.
someone said, you can only tell a parent one thing, what would you tell them?
Yeah.
It's similar to something you said earlier, which is, make every moment a teaching moment for your child,
Mhm.
because, I even when I went for my master's degree in education, in the first course I took, the professor told us, you can be the best educators ever, but the most important individual in a child's academic success and development are their parents, right?
Yeah.
And parents, if parents stimulate their children, meaning give them information throughout the day, talk to them in a sophisticated way, speak to them in a respectful way.
Mhm.
When I say respectful, I mean recognizing the innate intelligence of the child and orienting them, labeling, giving them information. There's
Mhm.
absolutely nothing bad that can come from that. There's only good things that can come from that. And again, getting back to what I was saying before, so often parents are kind of taught to limit what they think of their child's cognitive development. But many neurodivergent individuals are brilliant, highly intelligent, and they have their biggest issues are actually with expression, right? They might have difficulty with speaking or moving their arms and legs or fine motor skills, which are ways of expressing ourselves.
Right.
But expression is different from intelligence, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, I think recognizing your child's innate intelligence, and that, in many ways, that's the basis for a lot of our cognitive programs, because we successfully teach kids to read and do math and really amazing things that even to this day surprise me. But that you can only reach those levels if you first acknowledge that a child is innately intelligent.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Because my son, I use Joseph, and Joseph's happy to talk about anything and everything. So what I have his permission always, but he just he was back then what they called hyperlexic. So it was interesting to me that my son really couldn't speak. He was very echolalic. He couldn't answer any questions, basically. He was just silent, but he could read.
Yeah,
So if, going with what you're talking about, they all there, and he is brilliant. My son is brilliant.
yeah,
Um, but the struggles are just, okay, so it is expressive language for him too. So how can we find different ways? Well, for him, he's a beautiful writer. So there's always a way. Your child is in there, whether no, I don't care what anyone tells you. Your child is highly intelligent. They're in there. We just have to find ways for them to be able to communicate. I always say it's a foreign language. We're speaking
yeah,
two different languages, and neither one of us are literate in each other's language. So how can we find a way to get that beautiful person to be able to express themselves,
yeah. Yeah,
right?
that's
So
exactly right. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that Oh, I do want to say at this point, I hope you don't mind me kind of
Uh,
plugging my book, one of my books.
I was that we are on the same wavelength. Is actually that was my next question. So you go for it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, we have there have actually been, I think, 9 different books now written about different parts of the Doman method. But for parents of children, who are neurodivergent, there are kind of two principal books. And so I'll just hold them up if you don't mind. So,
Yeah, no,
um,
yes.
yeah, we've got the book Answering Autism, which is it's called the Doman Method Plan for Autism, ADD, and Neurodevelopmental Delays. And so, especially parents who have received a diagnosis that their child is on the spectrum, I'd recommend this book. And by the way, these books can be found on Amazon. They're
Okay.
readily available online. And then the other book is the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness. Both of these books are very practical. I would recommend Answering Autism for families that have a diagnosis of a child on the spectrum, and then the Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness. I would recommend for parents of children with other diagnoses, because there are actually hundreds and hundreds of different diagnoses given to neurodivergent individuals. Everything from ADHD to cerebral palsy and developmental delay and speech delay. And so obviously some children are given multiple diagnoses. And so I'd recommend the Doman Method book for parents with children with other diagnoses.
So let's spend some time there. So I'm a parent. Again, we're overwhelmed with information, right? So is it user friendly? I'm sure it is, but can you walk us through that so parents who are listening really understand the benefits of your books?
Yeah, so we've designed the books to be very practical.
Mhm.
We're not just talking about informational books. We're talking about books that actually tell you, you can start this activity today with your child in this way, and you can get started. And I think that's really important, because even in a pretty short conversation like this, we can talk about kind of general things, but it's very hard to kind of get into the nitty gritty of what the program actually looks like. What are the activities that our families are actually doing at home with their kids? And so the books actually outline a program that you can start today. So, for example, I was speaking last week with a mom with a child diagnosed with autism, 9 years old. And she had gotten the Answering Autism book in December, so we're talking about 2 months ago. And her child is saying his first words. He's reading words for the first time. His focus and concentration has gotten better. He's less irritable. So a lot of progress in just 2 months after reading the book. So I don't want people to think it's just some kind of theoretical philosophical book. It's practical.
Yeah, because I was just kind of Googling for the heck of it to see, books related to autism, and it's like yeah, like I wouldn't know. Like most parents, we want those steps, right? We want you to say, okay, here's what you do, step one, step two. And so I think those are brilliant books to have out there, because I'm the type of parent that would have really responded well to both of those books. Just show me a way, show me
Yeah.
something, right, that I can do, because we were talking about every moment's a teaching moment. So here you have two books that can walk you through how to help your child. And I think that's just great. I'm going to buy them myself, because I'm always um I got online, looked at them. I know what they're about, but to actually hold them and thumb through them and own it is very different for me. Um, so yeah, I'm going to be buying them, because I'm starting with a group of really powerful um, women, a neurodivergent center here where
Hmm.
I live, and so we're looking for resources. So I believe your books will be on our shelf, sir.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so excited. And what a gift to parents, honestly, to be able to have something to hand them to actually do and understand how to do it. Because, everything is so expensive. Therapies are hard. I talk to so many parents that just don't have the funding after they've done all the other therapies. So a book makes sense, right? You can afford it and you can do it.
Yeah, and each activity that we teach in the book, we give a, what we call the frequency, the intensity, and the duration of that activity. Frequency meaning how many times should you do it, the duration, how long, the intensity, how strong. And this is very important, right? Because uh, if I take one example, there are certain things in the program that have kind of entered the, let's say, the mainstream sphere, right? That might be done in regular therapy sessions. Let's take things like tactile integration, right? Or tactile stimulation. So parents and even professionals know, okay, there's benefits to doing tactile stimulation, but very few parents know how many times should you do that, what kind of textures should you use, how long should a session be.
Mm.
So that's just one example from the book, but every activity we teach, we say this is how many times to do it, this is how long, because it's kind of like if you hand someone a medication, the first thing the person's going to ask is what's the dosage, like, well, how much do I take, and so with every activity we give that info.
Yeah, I think that is really important because yeah, that sounds like a really well thought out. I don't know. I always refer to the word curriculum because I come from education, but I think it sounds like a really well thought out how to do program with all those things in there because that's exactly what I would do. Well, now,
Yeah.
how long
Wait,
do I do this? How
Well,
long do
yeah,
I do
and the reason why we do that is both because uh, it's how the brain works, right? The brain often needs repetition, and especially when you have someone who's neurodivergent, right? Often one of the symptoms that they're dealing with is a barrier to sensory information, right? Reaching the brain and the ability to take in information. There can be a barrier there. And so when you teach something or do something with repetition, that information is much more likely to reach the brain. So that's one reason why repetition is important. But the other, like, just funny practical reason why we give parents those exact numbers is if we don't, parents say, no, no, tell us exactly. If i
Yeah.
if i tell a parent do this with the child, the first thing they'll say is you must tell me exactly how often and how many times to do it. So yeah,
Mhm.
so it's a practical thing as well.
It is, and it alleviates the stress for the parent because, that's what I do. I help moms that are completely overwhelmed and stressed out. Hello. Um, of course they are. And so that's just one less thing that they have to be stressed out about, right? So I think that's
Exactly.
brilliant. Yeah, I love it. Is there anything else that you would like to share or mention before you go? We're buying the books. We've got that. Great advice that you gave. You explained everything beautifully, but I bet you've got at least one more thing you want to mention before you go.
I'm always happy to talk. But I think, first of all, if people want to learn more, they can go to our website, domaninternational.org. There's a lot of helpful, free resources there at the website. They can also follow us on social media where we're posting, content, not just to that's inspiring. We try to post a lot of inspiring content, but also helpful content for parents to implement at home. The thing I will say is if people read the books and they connect with it, we do offer online courses. So we have actually two courses: the Doman Method course and the Answering Autism course. They have the same names, as the books themselves, but they go into more depth, and they also give a lot more visual instruction of how to implement the different parts of the program. So if
Mhm.
parents read the books and they find the information in there helpful and useful, which I believe they will, um, for a lot of parents, the next logical step is to attend our online course. So if anyone's interested in that, all they have to do is go to our website, domaninternational.org. There's a contact form there. Just fill it out, and one of our representatives will reach out and schedule a free call, talk you through what Doman International does, and then parents can make a fully informed decision.
Yeah, I like the consult call, the ability to ask those questions and understand it before you sign up. That's really helpful too, because again, parents have so many things that they're researching and trying to decide what to try. So I think that's great. So you gave us where people can connect with you. You gave us your programs. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before you go?
I guess I'll just say never give up. I think that I'm sure that the parents that listen to this, range from, parents who have just, maybe discovered that their child has some kind of developmental issues, all the way to parents who have been on this journey for years. And just keep going, and keep learning. I think that's a very, very important thing for their child. And the other thing that I'll say is, which I think a lot of parents know, and especially moms, but I think it's just it's so rarely said by a professional. I'd like to say it is moms should listen to their intuitions more. I think that we've seen over almost 70 years. Now I haven't been around for 70 years. So I mean, the three generations of my family and the team that has worked with us,
Yeah.
we've seen 40,000 families
Mhm.
over the last 70 years. And one of the questions we ask every family, it's one of the first questions we ask, is who's the first person to realize that that their development wasn't like other kids. And 80% of the time, the answer is mom. Mom is
Yeah.
the most common answer. The second most common answer is grandmother.
Yeah.
Okay. And then pediatrician is the third.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to give you an idea. So it really tells you something about intuition. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
I love that because I'm constantly saying, follow your mother's heart, follow your mother's intuition. That's exactly what I tell them, because when we get in our heads, because there's so much, and you're hearing somebody tell you what you need to do. Not that it's not with great intention, but the whole time I would sit there and go, no, no, it
Mhm.
doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And,
Yeah.
you nod politely and you move on. But I love that you said
Well,
that because,
but
yeah,
by the way, some parents even tell us, some moms will even say that when they're talking to a professional and saying, I'm really concerned that my child isn't doing this and other kids are, they'll sometimes even be told, all mothers think that, like, and that's said
yeah,
in like this brush off way of like, oh, you crazies, like you all think, and it's
yeah,
like, maybe if all moms say it, maybe you should listen.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's something there. I
there is.
don't
There
know
is.
what it is. I think it's just part of how what being a mom is. I always say that, and I write about this in Joseph in my book, but once you become a parent, you're instantly a superhero, and you have superhero powers and you don't even know what they are. But that I think that's part of the intuition, is
Yeah.
all of a sudden everything that you had before is even stronger,
Yeah.
because of the love of this human, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
I love it. Wow, what a great interview. I loved having your wife on the show. She was just on a few episodes. Folks, go check out Melissa. um I don't know, you guys are awesome. I love the work that you're both doing, And I really want you to come back. I have this hunch that you have a lot more to say and that there's so much more information that you can share with us help our kids.
Yeah, I would love that because I think we could get into more specifics,
Yes.
so I think that would be great.
Okay, so you're on the record to say that you'll be back.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for being on A Mother's Guide Through Autism. If you all enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so Joseph and I can help spread knowledge, hope, and inspiration. I'll see you in the next episode.